Hey guys, welcome to the Thursday vlog. A few things that I want to make you aware of for your gatherings next week. First, 24/17. Next week we begin a series called God's Big Story. We'll spend 4 weeks talking about how God's story fits into our story and how it all works together. I want to give you a quick breakdown of the night. You'll also have this in your email as well. I'll spend the first 4 or 5 minutes of the night talking about the overall theme, God's Big Story week 1 from Genesis chapter 1. Once we've taught that, we'll split into our small groups, gender specific. Girls will go downstairs and guys will stay upstairs, or vice versa. We'll split into these groups. I want to encourage you that in these group times, let's spend a few minutes just talking about life. Why don't you take your iPhone app and why don't you just spend 90 seconds talking about each other's lives? Go around your circle and talk about each other's lives. Students probably experienced some big changes this summer, so be prepared to discuss those changes. After you spend a couple minutes doing this, begin moving the conversation back towards God's big story. Once we finish our group times, we'll head back together and I'll spend the next 4 or 5 minutes wrapping everything together so students can begin to understand that God's story fits into our story. I'll see you next week. Hey 217 team, I hope you had a great time with your students last night. I hope it was a great time to share a meal together and just reconnect after a summer of being apart. I also hope you got the opportunity to share with your students what Tangible Kingdom will look like. I also hope you got an opportunity to talk to them about serving together in October. If you haven't had an opportunity to talk about serving together, make sure you do that next week. Shoot me back an email and let me know where you will begin serving again in October. Also, I want to let you know that on this Sunday, you'll be able to pick up week 2 of the Tangible Kingdom at my desk. Come and grab your pamphlet of about 25 pamphlets of week 2. You can again grab those on my desk. Jeff is going to give you some encouragement for your Community Day 1.5. So here's Jeff.
Well, I'm supposed to help you as a leader know what to do when you get to 1.5 this week in your group. So if you got a book, it might be helpful for you. Just open it up to page 16. We'll look at the community section real quick. There's some things here that I've done with this to prepare myself for leading the group this coming week. It started out on page 16, which just tells us about getting a list of sojourners and group members and all that stuff together. If you're like me, that's not a strength of mine, so I immediately realized I've got to get somebody to help me with this. It's a good area to apprentice someone in the group to help work with the communication element of your group time. And if you're in a group that you're also hosting as you lead, don't have your spouse do it. They've got enough stuff to do with just getting the house ready and making sure they're able to practice hospitality. So get somebody maybe to help you with this communication issue. It's really, really important because remember, this is not about the lesson. This is about the community. It's about making disciples, helping these people grow to be Christ-like and be able to do that in somebody else's life. So that's a big thing to start with. So make sure you got that on the beginning. Then over on page 17 is the actual session time. And they just have 3 questions. I add to that a little bit. That may be the teacher desire in me, but I took that first question they asked, what's something about yourself that people in the group don't know, and I modified that because this is really getting started for us as a group, and I just said, tell me about where you're at. It's been a long summer, a lot of things going on, what's going on in your life. And they told up a stopwatch and tell them they got 90 seconds or less, and just kind of make it a joke. It seems to take the edge off of talking if they know there's the time limit, and we kind of make fun with the time issue. And then I asked them to tell me about where do you want this group to go, what are you hoping to get together in the next year, as opposed to dreams that they may have. But that's just me. But the idea of the question is to open them up, and you want to get them to begin the discussion process. And I went back and reviewed, because they should be doing this book on their own, and I don't want to make them feel guilty, but yet I want to give them some accountability to whether or not they've actually done the book. So we go back and we reviewed, and I asked somebody to tell the story of Abraham being called and being sent by God to retell that story. And then there's some questions on page 8 and 9 that we went through real quickly that are really powerful, well-written questions that I would just say go right down through the pages 8 and 9 of those questions. And I jump over to page 12 and just made sure they got it, the 4 immersions that we're really going to challenge them to participate in. And then 1.4, which is really the challenging part of this whole study, It's them crossing their yard, crossing, their fence, their street, or some other barrier. And we just talk about, just ask them about, what are some ideas that you could do to execute this, and then tell them next week, hey, we're going to talk about, what was your fears, how did it go, success, failure, all that kind of stuff, because we don't want to scare them into not doing it. There's enough excuses why they won't do it already. We want to encourage them that we're going to provide some accountability and some direction, and let them know that it's okay to try and fail, but we're moving forward together with this. And then I make sure we pray for the sojourners. That's the key. We used to call it an open seat concept. Who would sit in the open seat that's in our group, and pray for that. Make sure I pray for the needs, then last of all, of everybody in the group, or have somebody in the group do that, just to wrap things up. So that's lesson 1. There's tons of stuff here. If you get them to talking about themselves and life and this mission that we're all on together, it's going to be a great time. Thanks for leading.
Let's continue to encourage students to be missional in their life. Let's continue to allow them to know the importance of living out their faith. Sometimes that means simply going across the lunchroom and sitting at a different table. It's simply going where lost people are and building relationships with them. Let's continue to communicate this with students. Thank you for everything that you do.